Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Ah yes, the magnificent Trolley Sourbright Crawler, also known as Trollicus brightolus. The worm's captivating neon colour makes it an easy gummy prey.
Trolley!
It's a surprisingly sour, invitingly chewy, staggeringly snackable species unlike anything else found on this planet.
Eat me!
Delicious. Visit Trolley.com to shop now.
Trolley, eat me!
To do one more.
You wanted to do one more. You're like, I want to talk about how my feelings have changed. But regardless,
you know what? I'm sorry and you're sorry. We're here though. We're
here there, and we're joined by a guest who I don't even know if he knows was kind of like the final push for me doing this podcast when he came on the One Hit Thunder podcast to talk about doing he did the Phantom Planet California song for One Hit Thunder, and we got talking about the OC and his love of hanging out with his buddies and watching the OC, and it just became, I was like, you know what, I've wanted to do this show with Joe for a while, let's go for it. But well, let's introduce him. Matt DiStefano is back on the show for the final episode.
Celebrity guest appearance, everyone's favorite guest on the White People Problems podcast. I just assume I didn't realize that was the push, Matt. Yeah, you're welcome, I guess. Maybe, hopefully, you're welcome.
Well, hopefully, yeah, I think so.
Hopefully. We'll see. Now, Joe, the other thing that pushed me to do this podcast was that you have a history with this show.
Yeah.
And what your history with this show has been was whenever you had a heartbreak, this was the show you would binge to feel better.
Yeah.
And
heartbreak does feel good in a place like Newport Beach.
Boy, does it. And you literally at the start of this podcast, you had gone through a heartbreak. And I said, well, since you're going to rewatch the show anyway to heal those wounds, let's make
drag
a podcast.
It out for 2 years.
I mean, I guess what we're doing here is I'll be talking about my first thoughts now that I've watched the whole show. Matt and Joe, this is like, I don't even know how many times around Newport you've ran, but just kind of thinking about like the legacy of this show, what this podcast was, how I felt about the show, just a couple different things, like a farewell, I guess, to the loyal listeners of the podcast.
I just want to jump in, and Joe, I think it's kind of funny that you're not funny that you were going through a heartbreak, but funny that you were going through a heartbreak and you probably wanted to binge this show and you like needed that at the time, but Matt made you like microdose it over the course of a couple years. So maybe you truly didn't get what you needed on this watch. But it was for the good of people and for the good of Matt being able to talk to someone as he watched it.
Yeah,
And man, I don't know if I would have paid as much of attention to this show if I wasn't doing the podcast. I think it would have quickly became a background noise show for me. But since I had to sit there and take notes and register what songs were showing up and what parts and stuff like that, it made me a very active viewer in a way that I don't think I would have been with a show like this. I feel like the shows that I compare it to that I've watched is One Tree Hill and Gilmore Girls. And with all of those shows, OC included, I feel like it's impossible to compare one show to the next. And it's more like seasonally. like I preferred season 1 through 6 of One Tree Hill over these 4 seasons of the OC, but I definitely would prefer these 4 seasons of the OC over seasons 7 through 9 of One Tree Hill, if that makes any sense.
That's how long that show went on, One Tree Hill.
Do you want to know something that really will blow your mind, Matt?
Sure, yeah.
Season 6 is when Chad Michael Murray left the show, who was the star of the show, and they just did 3 more seasons without their 2 leads, and that's why it is unwatchable.
Matt, I'm curious, because it's been a little bit since you and I have chatted about the OC, and I think there's been a lot of episodes you've consumed since then. What is your overall, like, keeping other shows out of it, like, obviously there's things we like more than other things. What is your overall feeling on the show after you're done? I'm really curious to hear what your overall feeling is on season 4, because as I've said before, I'm a stan for season 4. I think it's great.
Matt, I'll tell you right now, I have said multiple times on the last couple episodes, season 4 is my favorite season of the OC.
I love that.
Season 4 is like what I enjoy in television, which is like fluff, right? Like it's so many just like light fluff stories. There are still a ton of plot beats that like infuriate me throughout the run of season 4, but like I've never been one for the overwhelming heavy drama. And there's just so like, I think you said it when you were first on the show that like season 4 is the only thing that you could do after how heavy season 3 was. Because like season 3, there were points in season 3 where I remember texting Joe being like, I almost want to just like wrap up.
I'm done. Why are we doing this?
Like season 3 is so brutal. Now, again, I said this on our last episode, which at the time that we're recording hasn't come out yet, but like my biggest beef with season 4 and the season 4 finale and everything about it is that I don't think season 4 justifies its existence at any point. Like, as I watch it, I'm like, you know, they could have just like let Marissa go off with her dad and end it at the end of season 3 on a happy note. And I think that would have been a more satisfying wrap up to the show than like the goofiness that we went through for all of season 4 for like, I felt like by the end of season 4, it felt more like it was a show about Julie Cooper finding love than it was about Ryan Atwood. So I was like, I think you could have just wrapped things up in season 3, not killed Marissa, and just like had a pretty decent 3-season teen drama. But then it's like, after you kill Marissa, you have to do these like 3 dour as fuck episodes in season 4 of like Ryan Atwood hired assassin.
Yes. It's so good though.
And then after that it gets like lighthearted and delightful for me. But it's real wild.
Every time I've rewatched it also, season 4, those first couple episodes, in my brain, they're one episode. So when I watch the first one, I'm like, oh yeah, they stretched this out for quite a bit. Like, I'm all for the Ryan Atwood cage fighter and what they play, the cover of Running Up That Hill. Great montage there. It's super, super weird and dark, like all about that, but they kind of linger in that space a little too long.
But I think that's also like what felt that's the opposite of the OC to me, right? Like the OC's not known for lingering on plot lines. Like Oliver in any other show would have been a season arc, and that was like a 5-episode run.
Yeah.
Like they really speed run these storylines. So the fact that they like really stretched out a pretty one-note plot point of like Ryan is trying to find and kill Volchek for Julie Cooper, like that did not need to be a 3-episode run. And then it ends. The way that ends is so insane to me, where like Sandy Cohen just puts him in a room with Volchek and lets him beat the shit out of him for a bit. Like it's so not Sandy Cohen. Yeah. Like it's like, this is not this. What is happening? My other big complaint, and I've said this before with Joe, is like not in love with kind of shoehorning Taylor into being like Ryan Atwood's love story.
Really?
Only because in my mind you literally have like Teresa there. Like, it's like
Yeah.
Teresa's been there. Like, why not just wrap things up with like them reconnecting? Or, God forbid, just let Ryan be single for a season. Like, that's also an option.
Yeah, that's impossible. And also, Teresa, if we're like power ranking the romantic interests, Teresa is absolutely at the bottom. Teresa sucks. Teresa's not fun.
What?
She's not cool. Ryan's trying to like move on from his shitty upbringing and keeps getting dragged back down. Like, not a fan of Teresa. I'm a big fan of Taylor Townsend's pivot in season 3, like becoming a cool, normal person, and well, not normal, but
not fucking a teacher,
right.
Taylor,
a protagonist. And then I love that move in season 4. I like the Christmas episode where they fall off the ladder. I like all of it.
Joe, would you like to voice what you thought of the Christmas episode where they fall off the ladder?
We probably
Fucking
disagree.
hate that. I fucking hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much because the Christmas episodes are the best, and they ended with the Christmaka, huh? Right? Was that what it was called?
Yeah,
like,
Christmaka.
Christmaka. I'm like,
I
why?
think you literally
Why?
said it's your least favorite episode of the entire series.
My favorite episode of the entire series is like the first Christmaka episode, and my least favorite episode of the entire series is the last Christmaka episode.
Ooh. This leads to an interesting question. I want to know what everyone's favorite episode is then, because mine, I can't remember what the name of the episode is, but my favorite episode is the one where it's like a big rainstorm hits Newport Beach, and it's like 3 individual stories of them doing different things during that rainstorm. I think it's at the end of season 2. It's a really great episode.
With the Spider-Man kiss.
Yes,
That
where they
episode.
recreate the Spider-Man kiss.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite episode of the entire series.
I have a couple. I love, well, it's not my favorite, but I do love that 4th season Christmas episode. I'm not going to lie. I am a big fan of that one. I just think it's so ridiculous. I think at that point the show has gone so off the rails that the further they push it, I'm like, yeah, keep going. Season 3 was a drag. let's inject some fun and weird into this show. No one was on board, obviously. No one was watching it other than myself and maybe Joe if you were watching it live at the time.
Not season 4. I didn't watch season 4 live.
You checked out at that. So it was just me alone watching the show. But I think a lot of my favorite ones are pretty early on. Like I love the pilot. I love the last episode of the first season. The first one we talked about, the Tijuana episode on the first season, is a good one. I have a lot. I don't know that I could pick one. If I had to pick one from each season, let's go like Tijuana season 1. Let's go. I'm looking at a list right now. Well, yeah, it's good though.
It's really good, but that is a good episode. But damn, is it dark? Okay, go ahead.
It's super dark. Let's go the season 2. We'll go the episode where they're in the mall because I think that's a fun one where it's like the gang's all back together again after they've sort of gone their separate ways. It's kind of like pulls you back to season 1 a little bit. We'll go with that. Season 3 is rough. I'm gonna go with the finale of season 3 because that's it just like moves the plot past everything that has been happening in season 3 that is a drag. Season 4, I don't know. I like all of season 4. That the Christmas episode is funny. The earthquake episode, gotta love it. That's another insane one. Probably the last one. I think that the last one kind of bringing everyone back together and showing sort of what happens in how they wrap up their stories. I'll go with that.
Yeah. I like the story wrap up. I think I said that in the last episode. Like, when I'm complaining about the series 4 finale, I'm not complaining about that last like 5 minutes where it is like tying up all the loose ends and you see the future. I'm just complaining that the final episode of this entire podcast or this entire TV series was will Julie Cooper marry the Bullet or Frank Atwood? Like, I'm like, that is not what this show has been about until now. Like,
the Bullet, man, like bringing in
Remember the
that
bullet.
character so far into the show, bringing in an A+ character like that is awesome too. That's another character that just feels like they're from a different planet. They shouldn't exist in this universe.
It feels like he's supposed to be like a George W. Bush character the entire time that he's on screen.
Yeah.
Like,
Which makes sense.
But they never do anything with that being who that character is. So I'm like, I don't know why this guy gives me like vibes the whole time he's on screen. I will say, yeah, the Bullet, probably one of the best additions to the show. Pancakes, the bunny rabbit, great addition to the show. Che, however, I have my real struggles with Che episode to episode.
Oh, Chester.
Yeah, he'd have the occasional moment where I'd be like, all right, that was pretty good. But more often than not, I was like, this character sucks. Like as a person and as just a written character, he's not very fleshed out.
Yeah, I would agree. Can we talk about, real quick, jumping back to season 3, talking about characters that you don't like. I think why season 3 drags so much is they introduce a lot of new characters, but none of them are likable. The villains aren't likable. Some of the villains are very good villains, and you appreciate them. They make you feel the right feelings. Some not as much. Some you just don't want them to be there. But any of the new protagonists introduced in season 3 are horrible. They're unlikable. Their story arcs are
You mean
awful.
when Marissa goes to school and finds the bizarro versions of all of her friends
Yeah,
at
right.
Newport, but like slightly less fun? So you're just like, oh, these less cool versions
So much worse.
of our main characters. Like,
Yeah, Johnny. They should have killed Johnny off in the first episode he was in somehow. Just he steps out of the school and gets hit by a truck, and then you just fast forward ahead to Marissa grieving about it or something. I don't know. That's there's a lot of characters on the show, and I think Johnny is maybe the worst character in the entirety of the OC.
You know who I'll also throw out there, actually, because I don't think that they ever fully stuck the landing on this character's arc, is Caitlyn. Like, Caitlyn's like MIA for 2.5 seasons, and then suddenly she comes back in season 3, and she's awful. And like season 4 constantly feels like they're trying to do, yeah, but Caitlyn's not awful anymore, redemption stories, but then they just never get there.
Yeah.
like up to the final episode, she's still bratty and sucks. And I'm
Right.
like, why is she even here then?
Yeah. You've got the Chris Brown arc that doesn't age well.
Oh.
But I will say, Caitlyn, her reappearance also brings back the appearance of Luke's younger brothers, who are all-stars. Every scene they're in is great. The way they use those characters is so funny. I love it. I love that they get brought back. But yeah, totally agree.
Talking about cameos that aged poorly, the fact that there is an episode in season 4 where you are getting appearances from Chris Brown, Chris Pratt, and Kevin Sorbo all in the same 45-minute episode just has aged like dirt. Like, it is so bad. You're like, none of these people are people I want to see on my TV anymore. Like, at all.
Who's your favorite cameo of the whole series? There's so many.
And we're not going to include bands performing at the bait shop.
No,
right?
that's
Those
a different
aren't, like,
question,
really...
though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because that one for me, that's an easy one for me because I fucking love Modest Mouse, and they played all my favorite Modest Mouse hits when they showed up on the OC.
Yeah.
I want to look up a list of all the cameos because I'm like that. Never has a show quickly dumped out of my brain in real time while watching it. Like, there are times where, like, we wouldn't record for, like, 2 or 3 weeks, and then I would start back up the episode and be like, who are these people?
What the heck?
Like, I would be so confused by everything that was happening around me.
I promise you, if you do ever rewatch it, also, you're going to be like, oh, I completely forgot about this story arc that went over 6 episodes. There's so many things in each rewatch I completely forget about.
Well, So I have to. So I'm going to give a slight spoiler for people if they've never seen Friday Night Lights. But
I've never seen it.
Barb
Should I
and
plug my ears?
No, it's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
But Barb and I have been doing this thing where we will force each other to watch a series that we care about a lot, and then then the next one gets the back and forth. So she loves Friday Night Lights, and we were watching the second season, I want to say, of Friday Night Lights, and one of the main characters kills a man, like beats a man to death and hides his body in the river. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that he kills somebody in this show." Matt, that is the entire season 2 story arc that she just like completely forgot happened in this show that she loves. I think that's just part of teen drama shows, is that they're throwing so much nonsense at the wall at all times that like at any given moment something's going to fall apart. Okay, I just saw a good potential pick for my favorite cameo, but let me just double check these other seasons.
There's a lot. I'm going to drop one right now that again, things that I forgot about. I think very timely but strange cameo is Steve-O as the
oh my
the
God.
military guy
Yeah.
in the bard. Such a great little drop.
I'm going to say the one that's just insane that he agreed to do it, which is the George Lucas cameo.
Yeah, why?
Like I feel like George Lucas is a person who so rarely appears in anything.
Yeah.
For this to be the one that he's like, yeah, I'll do the OC.
Was there a Star Wars movie? No, there must not have been around that time, because
he would have sold it by then.
Yeah,
I want to say
the prequels had wrapped up by that point.
Yeah. So he was just
bored.
Just doing it for the love of the game, I guess.
Joe, do you have a favorite cameo?
What is my favorite cameo? Well, band will always be Rooney, because that was a really fun. Yeah. That was just a really fun episode. Also gives us like Luke being a full himbo singing "Shaken." Cameo. I mean, honestly, I did love the Paris Hilton cameo.
Yeah.
Because it's just so of the time, right? Like, we don't care anymore. Yeah, it's just so of the time.
So real quick, we are incorrect. This would have came out, the George Lucas cameo would have been right in time for Phantom Menace, or Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. That came out in 2005, so that's right in that ballpark.
Promotional fodder.
Promotional,
likely.
But I want to stress something here. I'm looking at George Lucas's acting credits on IMDb, and excluding appearing in movies of his own making or Steven Spielberg, his best friend's own making, the only things that he has appeared in is an uncredited cameo in Hook, where he played man kissing a woman on a bridge. And Beverly Hills Cop 3, where he played a disappointed husband, and Men in Black, where he was an alien on a TV monitor. This and Just Shoot Me are the only 2 times he's done a non-Star Wars appearance on something as himself.
That is very interesting.
You know the story about that, right? The woman he's kissing on the bridge is Carrie Fisher.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know that What's-Her-Face is playing a pirate. Oh my God,
Glenn
who is
Close.
It? Glenn Close. Glenn Close plays a pirate in Hook for no reason than just to entertain Steven Spielberg by being like, "Look, she's there."
No.
Also, I guess Jimmy Buffett and David Crosby are in there
in Hook.
In Hook,
yeah. David Crosby plays like the accordion guy with the big feather and the floppy hat. He's like, "It's
what a
me."
Weird. Man, I need to go and rewatch.
I love Hook.
One of these
I grew up on Hook.
Someone ranked that the worst Spielberg movie of all time, and I full disagree.
Yeah.
There's got to be something worse. One of the kids from Hook is in that new Penguin series. He's like fully 50 years old and playing a gangster, and I was like, that guy looks so familiar. What do I remember him from? And I'm scrolling through all of his credits, like nothing. Hook from 30 years ago. That's what he was in.
Hey,
it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting. Go to your happy place for a happy price with Priceline's Black Friday sale. Save now and travel later with our best deals of the year.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Hey, it's me, the Quenchies. I'm that late afternoon craving you just can't shake. Wait, what's that? Welch's Grape Aid? No! Made with real fruit and no added sugar, nothing answers the call of the Quenchies like Grape Aid. Got the Quenchies? Grab a Grape Aid in your juice aisle.
We're making an ad.
Napping ad.
I hear that Gary Sinise is free.
Oh, okay, great.
He hasn't worked since 2020.
So, what would be the script that we would have Gary Sinise say for the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast?
Listen to this damn show. Damn it.
The Napping Through Happy Hour podcast brought to you by Geekscape.
Real life, real drama, real time.
I'm Gary Sinise.
That's the ad. That's the ad. That's the ad.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with Modest Mouse for performance because I just could not believe that Modest Mouse was there. I know that this is not a One Tree Hill podcast, but I do have to stress again, DiStefano, for you should watch some of One Tree
Okay.
Hill.
I've never seen it. I don't think I've ever seen an episode.
They have a very similar bait shop type angle where there's a club in town that they always go to where local bands perform.
The Peach Pit.
But
Peach Pit After Dark.
Pete Wentz has like a 5-episode arc as the boyfriend of one of the girls in One Tree Hill that like booked Fall Out Boy for their charity event. And
I do remember that.
So you get those moments,
Nice.
which makes it fun. And one of the main stars is Minkus from Boy Meets World.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is hilarious to me because I'm like, is this the perpetual teen? Was this Ben Platt before Ben Platt? You know,
because it is like it's a solid 10 years after Boy Meets World that he shows up still playing a high schooler and just like, all right, go for it, Lee Norris.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's so Joe. Let me ask you this. Okay. Matt implied this, but how did this help soothe the broken heart as it was stretched out to 2 years?
Or did it not? Did Matt ruin this for you?
You know, so okay, I gotta be honest that like I haven't had like very many truly heartbreaking things happen to me when it comes to like romance and stuff. And the relationship that ended around the time we started this show was like my first big like relationship go, right? This is somebody who, you know, in the time that we were together, like the love was not unrequited. Like it was very mutual. When I first did the OC binge, how I discovered, like, you know, I credit the OC as being the first show that I ever truly binge watched at a time when it was difficult to do those things, right? Like Netflix had the DVD thing, but it was still like, you know, I didn't understand it, you know, being as young as I was. And I had the box sets of the OC. And so that's like, you know, that, but like the guy who I was torn up over, he was somebody who like the love was unrequited. Like he did not like we were friends, but I was attracted to him, and so there was a lot of extra complication with my ex now. I gotta say that like honestly the show kind of helped because like there was a significant amount of grief, and like in the first time using the show as this way to get over somebody or to like help ease that process, like, yeah, I was like feeling better after that first like binge through, but I wouldn't be like truly quote unquote healed from the process until like several years later after that. With this like this is like I started to feel like better, healed, more moved on by like the next year, like almost a year to the day. And then now, even though like, there's still some of those like some of that grief that lingers that comes back. But overall, like I think I'm like, I'm doing pretty well. I've done so much in that time, just personally, professionally, podcast related, wise. Like it's really helped me to have like a place to funnel when I do feel those feelings of grief, to funnel that into this show. And like this show, meaning like white people problems, and still have a way to like, deal with that. Plus, like it had been almost 4 years, or well, because I did a binge watch of this in 2020 when I was just mourning the world. And even though that was like the closest the closest I in between binging of this show, I had truly forgotten some things. And it was one of like I had it on in the background a lot in 2020, but like laying down and like intentionally watching the show on this time around for this show made me be like, oh, I guess I imagined that differently. Oh, I guess that's not in this season. And then that's kind of like, it's like at the end of 500 Days of Summer when the little sister tells Joe that like, or Tommy or whatever the fuck his name, I think is Tom, tells him like, oh, maybe you like misremember it, or maybe you thought it was better than it actually was. And then you see like the moments in which she's right. That's kind of what I felt in moments as I was watching the show. And I'm like, oh, I guess that was, I remembered that differently, or, this character is actually terrible. And so it was just really interesting to have those revelations while also having personal revelations about like my journey on this. So ultimately, like, I think this is the best in terms of like using the show as a form of healing. This particular watch of it has helped me a lot than like previous watches.
Love to hear it.
Considering that it was like a more significant relationship too.
That's heavy as shit, Joe. In
Yeah.
a positive,
right?
in
Like,
a really
for a show
positive way.
that-
I'm like,
For like a show that like came out in the 2000s, and but it's one of those things where it's like, I think people who, some people think that the only thing that you can really think deeply about are like books and the written word. And I've never been that way. Like that's always that, I appreciate that has a place for it. But there's something to be said about like also feeling that strongly about like moving pictures, like television and film. And I like being able to do this with like Matt, both of you, who have similar deep feelings, big feelings about like shows that were created, years ago, even currently, because I'm just like, no, I mean, you're literally seeing that right now. I'm watching, this will probably be my culture thing later, but I'm watching a show right now where I'm like, it's kind of difficult to watch because I'm like, oh, there's some unresolved personal things that are being confronted to me right now. And it doesn't help that like the main character is like supposed to be the same age that I am currently, right? Like, it's like, I'm seeing too many parallels and it's kind of freaking me out. But it's also like, it confronts you in a way that the written word can't confront you with. Yeah, a lot of deep, big feelings. As far as like, how I feel about my ex, I think that, I don't know if I told you this, Matt Kelly, but I, last year, like almost a year ago to the day that we're recording this, he got back in touch with me after a year of no contact.
Yes, you did tell me that, actually.
Oh, did I tell you that on the show?
You told me as soon as we were done recording.
Okay, no. So like,
let's air it out.
Yeah, air it out. We're airing it out. So he got back in touch with me after a year with no contact, and apparently there was like the guy that he immediately dated like a week, 2 weeks after we broke up, when he went official. there were things that like I had intuited from a social media presence that ended up being completely true. It was not a fun time for him. And then when he finally like extricated himself from that relationship a year later, he like apologized. He apologized for the ways in which he was shitty at the end. And I got to basically tell him everything that I had been holding in for the last year. And then like, you know, we had that one night, and that was like the last time we saw each other in person, intentionally. And he has since found another person to date, which, like, you know, I always told him, I was like, you know, you're going to be fine. You're, you know, you're like conventionally attractive, thin and white. Like, you'll be fine. Like,
it's all going to work out for you.
Yeah, exactly. It'll work out for you in the gay community in Southern California. But it's one of the things where it's like, I had that closure, and that helped also propel me forward. And, you know, I'm assuming he's still dating that guy. I wish him well. I'm actually at a place where I can say the words "I wish him well" and maybe mean it like 75% of the time.
Well, Joe, we've got a surprise here for you today. We're bringing someone into the Zoom.
Look who's backstage
for the first time in 1 year.
Oh my God, I'm gonna get real vulnerable. So, like,
did you ever think you'd get this vulnerable talking about the OC on an OC podcast?
Because like I'm feeling nostalgia over like a year ago around this time, having that, like, being thrust into more chaos by having him reach out to me. I was feeling like feeling vulnerable and nostalgic, and so I did find his new boyfriend has a public profile. So I found the profile, and I was like, oh, part of me was like, oh, he got better fashion. He got better fashion sense. He shaved that shitty mustache. And then, like, once I scratched that itch, I was like I was probably on the page for like a minute, and then immediately was like, I'm good now, and then like blocked him. Like, okay, I released all temptation, and considering that like I had not done that in, like, you know, since I found out who the boyfriend was, right? Like, that was one of those things. I'm like, no, we're done now. Don't need to know anything else. We can be, you know, we're good. I'm good with that. I wish him well 75% of the time, and we're good.
It's amazing. I'm so glad that this podcast had anything to do with any of that helping.
Right. I know. It's just like, but it like, you know, because I kind of remained in that mindset over the last 2 years. And then as the show went on, as you got more into the show, and as I realized that, like, oh yeah, some of this is really bad, it got easier and easier to, like, I had to access that side of me. It took a little bit longer for me to access that side. And not only that, but there were times where I just completely forgot that, oh yeah, that's why we're doing the show, or that's why, like, that's what the show did for me. And, you know, I don't know. It's been a really good journey. It's been also really fun to, like, you know, be doing this, especially with you, Matt Kelly.
Oh.
I will say, well, one question I have for both of you is there like a show, movie that does what the OC does for me in terms of, you know, heartbreak? I mean, you got to pick one, Matt.
I know. I mean, it's usually 15. I think for most people, whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's for usually what, like, people's favorite shows are. So for me, it's like Scrubs. When I'm like going through it, I always am like, let me just throw on Scrubs. That was also like if I had writer's block show to watch, like that show is just like a weird comfort to me in a way that very few other shows have ever been.
That's good. I don't know if I have like a show or a movie or anything that I go to. I think I just always go to comfort things just constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like before I logged on here with y'all, I was watching professional wrestling. That's a nice comfort thing. That's I think that's something that takes me back to being a kid and being really excited about a thing and still get some of those feelings out of it when it's really good. Matt and I have had this conversation before. When professional wrestling is bad, it's real bad. But when it's really good, it is great, and it makes me feel like I'm 10 years old,
all over again
watching TV. So I think that's the thing that I stay in the loop because it gives me those feelings sometimes. Not to like combat any bad feelings I'm having at the time, but just to always make me feel good.
I had someone once describe the magic of wrestling as like, they were like, look, they're a Philly guy. They're like, I'm a diehard Philly sports fan. And like, I don't have a guarantee that the Eagles are going to win a Super Bowl. And I don't have a guarantee that like the Phillies will win the World Series. But I know that when I tune into WrestleMania, evil will be defeated. And like the guy that I'm cheering for is going to be holding that belt over his head. Like 9 times out of 10, I will get the happy ending that like I don't get in any other form of sports.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that really is like, that's facts right there. Mm-hmm. Like, and even though that that's what's going to happen, like the first WrestleMania that I remember watching as an adult was WrestleMania 30. And I went in there being like, well, Daniel Bryan's obviously going to win this. Did that stop me from jumping off the couch cheering when it happened? Like, absolutely not. Like, it's kind of, there is that where it's like the stakes couldn't be lower because it's like, who cares? Like, this isn't when you're surrounded by all of the awful things in the world and politics and things that involve you directly. Mm-hmm. I think you said this in the video that you did about it, Joe, like you take solace in like the white people problems of a bunch of people at Newport Beach that like really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of your life, but it gives you something to focus on instead.
Like, remember in season 1 where like everything after like Tijuana was all like everything after Tijuana could have been done in like 1 episode, but they stretched it out to 4. Like, because Tijuana also is where we like the Tijuana actions, or what also is kind of like a dotted line to Oliver, right? Like, you don't get Melissa agreeing to go to therapy in like Newport and all of the Oliver stuff if you don't have that. And so it's just like this cascading effect. And so it's funny to me to be like we could have just done this in 1 thing, and now we're just like stretching it out. Like, these are truly white people problems because you don't need, like, it could have been efficient.
Do you think that's because it was such a hit and they were like, we have to make 27 episodes for this season. We've got to fill in story somewhere. There's an opportunity here.
I mean, like, practically that's probably what I would think too, just because, again, we don't make TV like this anymore. Like, what did you say about the first season, Matt Kelly, that like the what's it called? Like, it's like 5 seasons in 1. Like in modern, like if you think about like prestige television on HBO, like where, things are like 10 episodes, but more like 6 or 8.
Yeah, I think that's the craziest thing, having watched the show now, is how much it absolutely just goes against everything that typical TV show structures imply. Like, it's neither a full season arc nor is it a like monster of the week type show. It's just some weird hodgepodge of like 2-hour movies that they broke into 4 episodes and just kept airing week after week after week.
I have a question. So you said favorite bands that performed on the show. I think, like, obviously music being such a big piece of it. What's your favorite needle drop moment in the entire show? If you had to pick one, because there's so many good ones. I can start because I know mine while you're thinking.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think there's the obvious ones. I think there's, Imogen Heap. There's Jeff Buckley. Yeah. There's, the ones that you think of. My favorite is it's in season 4, and this is one of my absolute favorite songs, and it's West Coast by Coconut Records, Jason Schwartzman's solo project.
I spoke so highly about that song because I love that song.
It's so good, and it had never been released prior to the show, so I think it's in kind of a cool scene where it's like Taylor's on the talk show, and Ryan wants to like go and profess his love for her, but he you find out that he actually doesn't. He was just like thinking that he was going to do it, which is what that's played over. And when it happened, I remember downloading off of whatever file sharing service existed at the time.
Yep, come on, LimeWire.
The only way you could find it, it was probably LimeWire, was a clip of the recording of the show with the little pieces of dialogue. And that's the only version of that song that I had for however long before that album was eventually released. And I just remember listening. It was like my top played song on going with LimeWire, Last FM, where you would track your...
Yeah.
My like top played thing was like the minute and 15-second version of West Coast with Taylor Townsend and what's his name, Henri Michel. Their like dialogue in it. I still have it. It's so good. Anyway, that's my favorite music moment in the show.
I'm gonna go with a slightly weird one here, and I think it's because it was an early moment in me being like, "Oh hell yeah!" Was actually in the pilot episode when they're at the party and a car pulls up blasting All American Rejects Swing Swing. My
God, yes.
It just kind of like perfectly drops you into like watching it in 2024. You're just like, that was 20 years ago.
That's what they would have been listening to.
Yeah, like it's like that's great. Like it got me really, really stoked, actually. So yeah, I think it's those moments to me. Like for me, it's not as much the songs that fit the scene, because obviously like Imogen Heap is a big one. Hallelujah is a big one. Like there's these great moments like that. But for me, it's those moments where it's like such a beautiful time capsule of 2004 to 2008. And like All American Rejects Swing Swing is the first example of that, really just like popping up in the show. And you just being like, yep. I was in high school. I remember this.
Yeah. I could probably tell you season over season, right? Like season 1 is definitely Hallelujah and the finale. Because it just fits so perfectly, and it's just like Hallelujah and the finale of season 1 is what like puts, in my opinion, puts the sound design, the music supervision on a show like the OC on the map. Like it becomes a whole thing. Like you don't get hide and seek if you don't have Hallelujah setting that emotional, like the emotional stakes of it all first. But if I have to be truly honest, like it's any time that when they used Running Up That Hill as like the leitmotif for all of that stuff, like it's just, to me, I had never heard that song before. Like I hadn't heard the original version. I knew nothing about it other than like, man, this is like really brooding and intense. Like it becomes, to me, that song like ends up becoming encapsulating Ryan's whole like broody, dark nature, right? Which we don't see again for the rest of the series once Volchek gets locked up.
Yeah.
And having that be like, it kind of crystallizes, distills all of that into it, is using that cover of Running Up That Hill.
I also think it's cool, season 4, where they intersperse all of these covers of songs that had already been used in some iconic way in the show. They have there's like a cover of Killer's Smile Like You Mean It that's really good, which I think is in the weird Alien episode, Halloween episode.
Yeah, oh my God, the Alien episode's not one of my favorites.
So fun. But there's like the Mates Estate cover of California for another the Christmas episode that Joe hates. I just think there's cool covers that they dropped sort of throughout that were like, oh yeah, remember these songs we used earlier in the show? Here's a different version of it.
You mentioning that makes me think of one of the other ones where I laughed. I don't think I was supposed to laugh at this moment. I think it's in the season 3 first or second episode.
Was it when Johnny dies? Is that when you laughed?
No.
And you weren't supposed to laugh?
No, when Ryan and Marissa both get expelled from the school and we get the sad version of California start playing. It's like the piano version. And I was just like, an on-the-nose cue.
Yeah, the like Phantom Planet's slow, sad version.
Yeah. I just was like, I love that because it made me think of immediately like Team America, where you have this awesome like America, fuck yeah song, but then someone dies and they just do the exact same song with the same lyrics but sad on a piano.
Yeah,
I was like, that's so beautifully on the nose that we just go back to the theme song, but the sad version of the theme song now.
That's a good one.
All right. Well, normally at this point of the show, we would do like pop culture promos and stuff like that. But I think since this is the final episode and all of us are fairly creative people, I would say that we're going to wrap this up by just each person saying, hey, if you enjoyed this journey, here's other places where you can continue a journey with me in other worlds like music or additional podcasts. So we'll start with you as the guest, Matt DiStefano. Where, if people are loving your hot takes on the OC, where can they go to just learn more about you and your music?
Yeah, if you love the OC, here's something completely unrelated that
actually, Jose, no, but real talk, you do perform our theme song, so like it makes sense.
Oh, that's true. I legit forgot about that because it was like it was something that I did for it probably took me a half hour 2 years ago and completely went out of my brain that I did that. Yeah, I did do the theme song. Well, let me plug one thing first, which is not mine. I want to plug Ben McKenzie's book about crypto. It's called Easy Money. I did read it because I was super interested in it, and it's like a very like for dummies takedown of the crypto world, which is very interesting to me as someone who thinks crypto is kind of like weird and maybe not the move, and to hear the guy from the OC very intelligently break it down and talk about it is very interesting. So I'm going to plug that. But myself, I play music. I have we'll say it pretentiously. I have a project called Team Goldie. I just put out an album a little bit earlier this year. It's out streaming everywhere. It's called Trailblazer. If you like pop music, if you like punk music, if you like any music that you've heard on the OC, you're probably going to love it. It's out on vinyl right now, which you can grab at teamgoldie.com. I also have some other merch. I made some candles, too. Not a typical band merch, but we got them. Yeah, and then you can also just stream it everywhere. Team Goldie, Trailblazer. That's all I have to talk about.
Still waiting
myself.
for the CD, but that's fine.
I told you you're gonna have to burn one for yourself because it's not. You're the only one who wants one.
Joe, how about you?
If you liked listening to me talk about my emotional relationship trauma and white people problems, you're gonna love a project that is not related to any of that. I co-host Fright School as of recording this. It's a podcast. It's about horror movies and queerness and anxiety, all the things that I am. And I've been doing it for just about 8 years as well. We're actually 8 years a few weeks ago. We are about, as of recording this, we are almost at 300 episodes, which is pretty wild. And we have a lot of great things in store for you in the future. So please check out our back catalog. And that's kind of it. Like, it'll be sad because I won't get to see Matt Kelly that much anymore, because I've really enjoyed our Sunday morning generally recording sessions. But Matt's also the head of content for our network, so it's not like I'm not going to be in touch with him.
And I mean, I have a million podcasts that I could mention. I'll just say
which one's your favorite? Which one of your children is the favorite?
Which one's your least favorite?
Oh yeah, that one.
No, I would never. They're all great, but I do have favorites.
They're all great in the eyes.
Except for this one.
I mean, I do love talking about music with people. So like One Hit Thunder and Weird Algorithm are definitely the two that I have the most fun talking about, but they're also because they're the ones where we get to have the most interesting guests, because like music is such an easy entrance point for almost like you'd be hard pressed to find someone who's just like, oh no, I don't like music. Like so like that's just opened a lot of cool doors by being music podcasts in general. But instead of promoting most of my shows, I'm just going to say geekscape.net. We're trying to get the website looking like an actual website soon. But the YouTube page is popping off. Geekscape TV on YouTube. We had 2 videos last month, both break like 2,000 to 3,000 views, and we like went up a couple thousand subscribers. So I'm gonna going to try to keep trying to do 1 to 2 videos a month on there that are like ranking videos, countdowns, top 10 stuff. Had an interesting interview with my friend Tommy, who I talked about last week as my pop culture promo was his new doc. So yeah, just subscribe to Geekscape TV. And December 6th, the holiday live stream. We do a 24-hour holiday live stream. I don't know if Joe's doing anything for it, but I'm going to be there most of it. So you'll see my face and a lot of the other podcasters from Geekscape doing things. So stay tuned for that. And for the final time, I guess we're signing off from Newport Beach. Bye.
Oh, you got to do a better sign off than that. Come on, Matt. Give the people something.
I got it. Are you ready?
Oh man, let me see if it was what I was thinking. Go for it.
I was gonna say we should all do the last bit of the theme song.
Oh, I was gonna say "So Long from the OC," bitch.
Yeah. There it is.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.